Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to this AFK journey video. So in this AFK journey video, we are going to talk about the Paragon priority tier list, which are units which you want to focus on to upgrade them to Paragon ASAP or at a higher priority. So before I start talking about the tier list itself, there's a few things I like to discuss first. So firstly, in order to understand why I promote certain units, you guys need to know what does the Paragon tier offer. So when you upgrade a unit between the Paragon tiers, they will get this rivalry stats option, which is energy regen reduction, energy on hit, debuff focus, resilience, damage boost, and damage reduction. So I'm not going to talk about individual stat lines specifically because that will make the video too long. But generally, these stats only affects the Arena and Supreme Arena. So this is a massive power boost for these game modes. And generally, units which are of the higher priority, they will be of more use in the arena. They will be of greater use in more game modes because these units, they are more versatile, they are stronger in the arena, and you can also use them elsewhere. So they are the highest priority. At the same time, Paragon upgrade also offers a little bit of stats. So that's why if the unit is generally versatile, if the unit is used in multiple game modes outside of just arena, that unit will also have a higher priority. So case in point, the one unit which I'll always recommend people to upgrade to Paragon first is Iron, because Iron is a unit that's just so good everywhere in the game, be it arena, be it your general story progression, be it battle drill. This unit sees use almost everywhere. Therefore, upgrading units like these to the Paragon tier is a very high value investment, and it's probably a good choice in the long run. So that's for the Paragon TLDR. And the next thing is, if you guys have probably seen my other Paragon videos by now, Paragon tier is a tier which requires quite a bit of gacha pulls to achieve, because you need 25 Supreme Plus unit to get to Paragon 1, and then subsequently you need about 20 Paragon 1 unit to upgrade to Paragon 2, so on and so forth. So the amount of duplicates you need to upgrade a unit from Supreme Plus to Paragon 1 is insane, and that is on top of you already having 25 Supreme Plus units. So you need quite a bit of investment. So within the short term, I think free-to-play players will not be able to reach the Paragon tier, but more so for the light to mid spender. So light to mid spender, in a sense, if you're very focused on certain units in the game, you're consistently going after them, and your gacha luck is decent, you might be able to get to Paragon tier in the next few months. Okay, so Paragon tier is definitely more towards the pay to win side. But in the future, right, if there's future power creep as well as general meta shift or changes, and there's any massive shift to the Paragon priority list, I'll do an updated copy for the Paragon priority tier list. So this one is based on the current version where we are at, based in the Song of Strife season or the pre-season itself. Okay, so these two are the two disclaimers I'd like to make. The next one, we'll talk about the ratings I have. So I have a few choices on screen, you guys can see. The top choices are units which are generally the higher priority in terms of being Paragon, because number one, either they are easier to Paragon, or number two, they are really next level if you power them up, or number three, they are very, very versatile in the game. They are used everywhere, they're used from the mid to late game, and they're just very powerful units generally. So that's for the top choices unit. Then we have the generally good choices. So this group of units, I'll say like they are a notch below the top choices, but let's say if you're a mega whale in the game, you're able to spend a lot and you're able to upgrade a lot of units to the Paragon tier, and then subsequently, because from Paragon 1 to Paragon 2 you still need quite a few Paragon 1 units, you want to build these generally good choices, because these units, I'll say they are just a notch below the top choices, but they are still usable in various game modes, or they are units which you use a lot in like other PvE game modes. For example, Merrily, right? I'll say Merrily will be somewhere here. Okay, so Merrily will be somewhere here. So generally good choice. The reason why Merrily is not in the top choice is because Merrily is generally not considered an arena unit. I think you can run her in arena, but in arena she's not very good there. So the rivalry stats boost on Merrily is not very relevant, because this is a very Dream Realm centric character. But for Merrily's case, as we scale towards the late game, I believe true damage will eventually come back, so you have to use her a lot in the Dream Realm side of things. So the additional stats that Paragon tier provides on her is going to be really helpful as well, so she is a generally good choice to Paragon if you have no other choices. So that's the rationale for this tier. And then we have the Donate to Paragon tier. So Donate to Paragon tier are basically units which doesn't require Paragon to scale, or units which you generally won't run in arena in the first place, because for the Paragon tier, it's rivalry stats. So if you don't use the unit a lot in arena or supreme arena, or the units have no place there, honestly, you don't have to rush to it. And if the units are not used a lot, the value that you invest in them will be lower, because you don't use them a lot and you don't use them in arena and supreme arena where the boost is the most significant. Therefore, you don't need to Paragon them. So that's for the Donate to Paragon. Then we have a future potential tier. So the future potential tier is a tier where I think this unit is not really good now, and they're probably not Paragon choices that you'll want to go for. But based on what I can observe with what the game is doing moving forward, these units might see more use, and this unit might be a good choice to Paragon them up, because in the future where there are certain meta shifts, this unit could be very future proof, and therefore they will be the units in the future potential. So there's only a few units in this category which I'll talk about later, but you guys will see the reason why. And then we have the last tier, unless you are very rich. So these are basically Walker tier units. They're not very good units to begin with, and if you do decide to invest on them, number one, either you are spending a lot in the game, you don't really care about the units having a really high value in terms of usage, or you don't really care about the general power level of the units, then you can go for these units for the Paragon tier. So this is when you are very, very rich, because you need to go for the really good top choices and then generally good choices, and then you will think about these not so good units, because these units won't offer you that much in terms of value if you do decide to go for them. But if you really love them and if you are really rich, you can definitely Paragon them based on your personal preference. And with that, let us start with the tier list itself. Let's go. Okay, so I'll start by talking about the lowest tier, unless you are very rich tier. So I already included all the units here because these units are commonly found in my Walker tier for my other tier list, meaning these units are not very good in terms of the general usage in the game. You don't see people use them in arena, you don't see people use them in battle drills, neither do you see people use them in general PvE contents. So if you do invest to Paragon these units, it's really out of your personal passion as well as your wallet being really thick, because this unit doesn't offer you much value outside of personal preference, right? These units are just not very good. So Valen, Walker, Morale, Atalanta, Faye, Kafra, Celezo, and Lumon, they are generally not considered to be good units. So if you do invest in them, I do see them being decently good at the Paragon tier, obviously, but I don't know whether or not you achieve a good results for them. So for the general public standard, I won't recommend them to general people, right? That's why if you're very rich, you can go for them, but if not, I don't recommend them. Simple as that. Next one, we have the units for the future potential. So these units, I'll say they are quite close to the lower half of the tier, but with the recent changes of the Song of Strife season, with some of the units being buffed up by the seasonal skill, and potentially in the future more powerful certain archetypes rising up, I can see these units seeing more use in the future, because their kit can definitely work if they have sufficient support, if the meta fits to them really well, or if they have a specific team they want to counter. So these units are Satrana, these units are Lucius, these units are Parisa, and the last one which I want to put on the list is none other than Cassidy. Okay, so first of all, before I start talking about them, these 4 units by the current standards, they are by no means good units. They're not like the topmost priority units, but for Satrana's case, for example, with the introduction of seasonal skill, she's seeing more use in the Mauler mage comms in Dream Realm, so she's able to provide for more damage for OD, which is definitely good. And Satrana is actually a very, very niche arena unit, which is an anti-mage team role. So this unit is very, very good against mage teams. It's just that she's generally not very good in every other game mode, so people don't recommend them. But in the future, with more and more meta mage teams rising up, there is a chance where you need a really powerful anti-mage unit. That's where Satrana will step in. That's where she will see more use in arena or supreme arena, and that's where her priority will go up. That's why she's in the future potential category. For Parisa's case, I think Parisa in the general PvE setting, you guys will realize how disgusting she can be. She deals a lot of damage if she hangs around long enough. She deals decent AoE damage, she deals decent single target damage, and she provides a buff which already goes pretty well with Donnell right now. So she has a team in the arena setup, but generally she's just way too slow for the current meta. However, everything could change if she gets a if she gets a partner which could benefit greatly from what she has to offer, or a partner which empowers what she wants to do in the future. So Parisa definitely has a potential to be a really good arena unit, and that's why I'm putting her here, because she's not very good in general terms, but if she gets a really good support in the future, she might be quite broken, right? And she will have some Paragon priority. So that's for Parisa's case. For Lucius and Cassidy, personally for Lucius' case, I've always thought of Lucius as a decently good tank, but the issue is Graveborn is simply way too overpowered in the meta right now. But with the introduction of seasonal skill, as well as in the future if Maulers do become really powerful, Lucius as one of the tankiest light bearer frontliner could see more use in the arena setting, and this unit has already started to see more use in the seasonal dream realm. So in the future, if they do decide to give him this idea of keeping your team alive while buffing them up, this unit could definitely see more use in the different game modes, and on top of being a very good anti-Mauler tank in the arena setting, so he has some future potential. For Cassidy's case, it's also because mage teams in the Song of Strife season got buffed up, and I saw some potential of Cassidy being a secondary carry in the mage team, so putting her in the future potential tiering makes sense for me, because I do see some potential that she goes really well with other mage units in the future, so that's why she's currently in this position. So these units, I think by the current standards, they are not very high in priority, but in the future, if any of the conditions I mentioned fit for this unit, they might move up to the generally good choices, or even the top choices in future iteration of this list. So that's for the future potential side. Okay, so moving on to the don't need to Paragon tier, I actually shifted merely down from the generally good unit to Paragon, because I think in terms of min maxing value, right, I'm just going to put all the Dream Realm centric characters in the don't need to Paragon tier. So Merrily, Kruger, I think that's that, right? Yeah, I think that's that. So I'll put these three units in the don't need to Paragon tier. So just now I had Merrily at the generally good choices, but I decided to downgrade her because personally, right, like I think Merrily, Corinne and Kruger, they're just not very good for arena purposes. And even if you're min-maxing for more stats, right, like investing in their EX weapon is higher value compared to upgrading their tiers from Supreme Plus to Paragon, unless you have no other better units. For example, for Lightbearer's case, right, if you take a look at the A-level characters, there isn't really a lot of good A-level characters, so you have these two of them on your wish list, and then you're actively pushing their tiers. If not, you don't actually need these three units to be Paragon tier, because the additional stats that Paragon offers, right, on the basic stats is not massive. And secondly, these units don't see a lot of use in arena anyway, so rivalry stats is quite wasted on them, so that's why I put them here. I've tried to use Corinne and Kruger in arena before, but it's just not very successful there. And for Merrily's case, I think in certain situations you can use her, but she's just generally not a good arena unit, therefore they belong in the do not need to Paragon tier. Obviously, if you want to min-max the stats on them, you can push them to Paragon tier, right? That's why initially Merrily was here, but I decided to shift her down here, because if you compare the absolute value that you'll get from the increase from the tier itself, these three units doesn't benefit that much. That's why I put them here, because they're way too Dream Realm centric. They're not very versatile in terms of other game modes itself. So the next unit which I'll say I'll put here is Cisia, because Cisia in general is just not a very good late game unit. So Paragon is a very late game thing, and that's why Cisia is just not good for this upgrade itself. The next unit which I want to put here is Reina. So I think Reina sort of belonged with the other three units in this list, in a sense. These units, right, I think for Reina's case, this unit is still a little bit more flexible. You can definitely use Reina for arena offense, but he is more used as a tech character. Like, he's not a very powerful defense character compared to the 3 Celestial and Hypogean units on top. So this unit is more Dream Realm centric, more PvE centric by nature, where rivalry stats is not very crucial on them. And in most cases, if you are limited on resources, I think Reina M+ is more than sufficient, because this unit is a support character. Unless you're min-maxing your damage, you want to go for the top 10, top 5 ranking, then upgrading these units to Paragon tier will be a priority, because you want to have as much stats on them so that you're able to compete at the highest level. But if you want to min-max on the values of the rivalry stats, I think keeping them at Supreme Plus is really more than sufficient. You did rather spend the essence on their weapons to get those stats on them rather than upgrading their tiers, because you need a lot of copies for the A level characters, and you still need to spend the pools you could have spent on the other 3 Celestial Hypogean units on Reina itself. So that's why I put them there. Another unit which I would say is donate to Paragon is Antandra. So Antandra, I would say, is subjective in a sense. I think Antandra can be a decently good arena unit, but I don't see a lot of people using her. That's number one. And I think Antandra is never really used as a primary tank role in most cases, because she feels like a very secondary tank kind of character. So you have a frontline unit that draws attention, and then Antandra is just there to sort of kick that guy healthy, or just draw attention away to lighten the tanking load. So for her case, I think number one, you don't use her a lot in arena. Number two, you don't actually need that much stats on her in the first place. Like, her second skill relies on the stats of the tank that you're shooting, so it's better that you provide more stats on the tank than on Antandra herself. So that's why I put her here. So the next unit, which is over here, is I think Laika. Yeah. Personally, I think, I don't know, Laika, even in arena, she does have a team that is the Dino team, which basically Laika will provide the buff, and then just, I'll say, provide some sort of debuff if she does get her ultimate off, and that's that for her. But generally, I don't see a lot of people investing in her to Paragon tier, because I feel that Laika right now is in a place where she's not very good anywhere else, and she's not like decent to have as well. Although seasonal skills did buff her up a bit, but I think her as Supreme Plus is more than sufficient. Like, she don't actually benefit a lot from the rivalry stats as well, so this unit is not like that high of a priority in terms of Paragon tiering itself. So that's for her. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for the donate to Paragon. Yeah, like I think these units, if you want to Paragon them, it means that you want more stats on them, right? If you're using them for every other game mode. But for arena specific reasons, they are either not highly used, they are not the best units, or they're just not like seeing a lot of use in arena specifically. So that's why they're here. So next we go to the generally good choices, which are, I'll say, a downgrade from the top choices. So the Celestial and Hypogean units, they are all here because these units, they are game changing with Paragon stats. Dino is an amazing AoE attacker, so this unit is going to benefit a lot from the energy reduction on hit stats. Scarlita is just a late game Messiah character, so obviously you want to get her to as high a tier as possible. And then Barrow is super duper annoying if he can survive and be annoying for a long time. So obviously these 3 Hypogean and Celestial unit, they will be your top choices if you can. And in fact, right, in terms of Paragon tiering, the Celestial and Hypogean units, they are actually easier to tier up because it's a lot easier to get duplicate copies of them if you are spending in the game, because all you need to do is buy a lot of Stargazer Orb and you can pull for each specific unit at a higher rate, right? So it's easier to get their dupes, it's easier to push up their Paragon tiers. So the most, I'll say, highest priority that most people push to Paragon tier is Scarlita because of her general versatility as well as her general game-changing arena power. So most of the Paragon 4 players I see have Scarlita at Paragon 4, followed by Donnell. So that's why I put them at the topmost choices before I even started the list itself. So these units, I think I won't explain too much later on because they are very, very expensive. They are basically meant for the wheels, and if the wheels are trying to Paragon up any units, these 3 units will be the highest priority. For the generally good choices, I'll say I think Reese, right? I think Rowan, I think all the assassin characters, as well as PvP centric characters, right? I think Igor, Tamasia, tanks as well. I think certain tanks are pretty good at Paragon tier, so I think Brutus is pretty decent as well. So I think that's for generally good choices. I think Florbell's a generally good choice as well. Okay, I forgot about Smokey. I'll just put Smokey in the don't need to Paragon tier. Personally, I don't think Smokey is an amazing arena unit. So before I talk about the generally good choices, I'm just going to talk about Smokey. So Smokey is generally not like a top tier arena unit when you think about it. So he's pretty much the same reason as these Dream Realm centric characters, these PvE centric characters. So it's good to have more stats on him, but it's not required. So that's why he's here. It's not that he's bad, but he would be better off if you spend this amount of resource on another unit which could benefit more from the rivalry stats. So that's why he's here. For the general, okay, so with that, let us move back to the generally good choices. I think Viperion's also generally good for PvP. Nero's also generally good. I think Elsa could benefit from it. Odie's generally good as well. Brian's generally good. Coco's generally good. Actually, I think I might give Vala the top choice. Okay, so these units over here, right? These generally good units, I think they benefit a lot from the rivalry stats because number one, they are generally very PvP centric in a form like such as the rogue characters. So Seth, Sylvina, as well as Shakir, they are all very amazing arena characters. So giving them the Paragon stats will give them an advantage in arena, which is going to be very helpful to boost their power level. So that's why I put them as generally good units. Rice, as well as Odie, as well as Coco, as well as Elsa, I think they are generally very versatile Mauler characters. You can use them in PvP, you can use them in PvE. So they are obviously like not the kings and queens of specific game modes, although Odie's right now is quite powerful in Dream Realm, but you can still see them being used from time to time in arena, and you can use them once in a while in your PvE content pushing, battle drill, or every other game mode. So generally, investing in these units are very high value because the stats that they get from the rivalry stats as well as the additional stats can be carried over in multiple game modes as well as arena, making them pretty decent choice to upgrade to Paragon tier as well. Then for the Light Bearer side, I think for Light Bearer, Tamasia and Rowan is pretty good. So some people might question the fact, why is Rowan there? Like, why is Rowan a generally good choice? So Rowan, right, this unit is actually a very powerful arena unit. I think the reason why this unit is not seeing a lot of use is because number one, this unit requires quite a specific comp. This unit is like a combo piece, right? This unit goes with Ciccia, this unit goes with Florbell, this unit goes with units which requires a lot of ultimate spamming. So this is a combo piece unit which doesn't stand alone very well on his own, but getting him to Paragon is good enough because you might want to slot him in your arena teams in the future. If there's future units with very, very powerful ultimates that want to run Rowan, I think he's quite decent as a Paragon choice. So for Tamasia's case, Tamasia right now already sees some use in Dream Realm, and for arena specifically, right, I think this is a unit which scales with a lot of stats. There is a possibility that Tamasia in the future might be a decently good arena unit as well, because this unit has control immunity if it's able to use ultimates 2 times. So increasing the stats, giving this unit more damage reduction, increasing the overall tankability of Tamasia will allow you to reach the control immunity and make her the very annoying horse lady that runs around on the battlefield. So she is definitely a decent character to Paragon tier up. So for the Oh, one more Mauler character which I forgot is Brutus. So I think Brutus in a lot of other tier lists is quite toilet bowl by nature, even on mine as well, but with the recent changes as well as Supreme Arena being a thing, I think Brutus serves as a decently good tank, because any tank that can be used in Arena can be a decent choice for Paragon tier because they benefit a lot from two main stats. Number one, it's damage reduction. Number two is energy on hit or energy regen on hit, because these units will be standing on the front line a lot, so they will get hit, so damage reduction will reduce the damage that they take, and energy regen on hit means that they will generate more energy when they get hit by the opponent. So generally, I think rivalry stats on these potentially good arena tanks are decent choices. Obviously, I think Brutus might not be the highest priority, but if let's say you have invested in all the top choices, then you have invested in every other unit, I think Brutus could be one unit you consider as well. So that's for the generally good choice. For Wilder side, I think Floorball and Bryon, they are pretty decent. Like Bryon is a unit which I think a lot of people sleep on, because I don't see a lot of Bryons outside of arena specific contents, which means that Bryon is an amazing arena unit. Even though with the introduction of seasonal skills itself, this unit does see more use for Dream Realm purposes, but I still think he's more of an arena unit. So rivalry stats definitely benefit this unit a lot, and definitely a good choice to just upgrade him if you have the resources. For Floorbell's case, same thing. I think right now there's actually a com which is called the Zoo com, which is quite decent, right, with Floorbell and Barrel. So you can definitely upgrade her to Paragon tier for more stats, and obviously this unit I think will scale very well in the future with more support or more summoner centric type of character to combo with her, so we shall see her higher potential in the future. But right now, at this current moment, I think she's quite a decent choice for Paragon tier, because additional stats does benefit her as she's quite powerful in the arena setting as well. So that's for the Wilder side. For Graveborn side, I think Igor's okay, Viperon's okay, Nero's okay. So these units, they are generally very good for arena, specifically Viperon and Igor, because these units are made for arena. I think in every other game mode they are not very good, but the rivalry stats boost that this unit will get from the Paragon tier up is going to be very helpful in boosting their power level in PvP content. So that's why they are here. Yeah, I think that's that. Okay, so we have come to the very last tier, which is the top category, the top choices. So I'll say these units are basically the first few units you want to tier up in terms of priority. Number one, either them being super mega late game characters, very good late game, so having more stats on them for them to run in arena or supreme arena is very helpful. Or number two, these units, they are just very good for arena, so you go for them because rivalry stats only benefits the PvP game modes. So them being very powerful in arena is gonna be of the best choice for Paragon tier itself. So first of all, the three Celestial and Hypogean units, they are some of the most expensive, but at the same time some of the most powerful late game characters. So they are very good for PvP game modes, and specifically Scarletta is also very versatile. So usually I'll say if there's one character that people will go for the Paragon 4 first, is actually Scarletta, because Scarletta is amazing in arena. This unit is also very versatile outside of arena, right? For content pushing, for some Dream Realm bosses you can run her. Her true damage is probably what makes her shine a lot, and that's why Scarletta, in case you guys didn't know, is usually the very first Paragon 4 unit for some of the mega whales. So that's for Scarletta. For Diurnal as well as Barrel, they are also very powerful in arena. So as long as you have the financial capability to get a lot of their pooling tickets, you should be getting them to the Paragon tier ASAP. So if you're thinking about Paragon, chances are you are already spending in the game. And in fact, if you're already spending in the game, focusing on the Stargaze Orb is more important than anything else, because these units, they offer so much value in the late game, and these units are a lot easier to Paragon tier up compared to some of the A level and S level characters. Because for A level, you need 30 plus copies and then subsequently 40 plus copies, and then for S level you need 6 copies and then subsequently 8 other copies. So if you cannot buy these shards from the arena store itself, right, you have to rely on your gacha luck, which could take quite a while, right? But for the Celestial and Hypogean unit, it's quite easy because you can just choose the specific one you want and then spam pulls, and then you will get a lot of copies on them, even off PT itself. So that's why they are easy to upgrade in terms of Paragon tier, and they are also some of the strongest late game characters, so that's why they are here. Then for the tanks, Danny and Torrent, I think they need no introduction. Torrent specifically is very versatile, very powerful in arena, so never a waste to upgrade him to Paragon tier. For Danny's case, this unit benefits from all the stats in the rivalry stats option, so very good because she has control, she's a tank, she also deals a little bit of damage, so all the rivalry stats boost is gonna benefit her greatly in the PvP setting. One of the best late game arena tanks as well, so that's why she's here. Other units are usually very dominant in arena are obviously your Iron partners, right? So Carolina, Iron, Arden, Hewin, Damien, as well as the Carolina over here. They're just very good in arena, and they're also some of the best content pushers in PvE setting, so they're also some of the strongest late game character, at least in the current meta. So upgrading them to Paragon tier, definitely not a waste. Then the last unit which I want to put in the top choices is Vala. So Vala is a very potent arena character. So on the offense, right, Vala herself can carry you in a lot of matches. So if you are an arena lover, if you like to break people offense, Vala is one of those very powerful bot breakers out there. So getting her tier up specifically for her to carry you in arena is gonna help you do that a lot more easily, and therefore she is one of my top choices to get to Paragon tier if you can afford to do it. So that's why she's over there, and that's pretty much it for this Paragon priority tier list. I think for this tier list itself, there's a little bit of personal bias because some of these units I use them way more than others. For Elsa's case, right, personally, this unit, I'll just say that she is very arena centric, so she is generally a good character, but she might actually fall off as well. So depending on the future meta, depending on the future units, some of these units which I put in the generally good choice might go down in priority. Some of those units at the bottom might rise up based on the changes in the future as well. So stay tuned for the future Paragon priority tier list. That's it for the current update. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more, and I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.